Tanya Ezekiel was deep in a successful career on Wall Street when a spiritual awakening caused her to walk away from it all. Discover what led her to coaching and how she became the founder and CEO of Conductive Coaching here today on the Essential Coaching Skills Podcast. You are listening to the Essential Coaching Skills Podcast, a show devoted to uncovering the systems and the secrets that set the best apart, where you learn how to take your coaching clients to the next level, while you grow the coaching practice of your dreams. So sit back and relax, or sit up and get excited. Either way, you might want to pay attention. This could be important. All right, so I'm here with Tanya Ezekiel. Welcome to the Essential Coaching Skills Podcast.
Thanks, Zach. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Really, really excited. I've been very impressed with your offerings online. The things that I've seen on your website is really impressive. Just from a curiosity point of view, the office space that you were looking at, or it looked like you were having a grand opening for in some of the videos. Is that still happening? Do you still have that office space?
Yeah, we did the grand opening a year and a half ago now. Uh-huh. So the office is still there. It's actually in Bryant Park on 45th and 6th. And so we're obviously all taking a little bit of a pause from the office, mostly because our corporate clients aren't visiting as frequently as we would like or at all at the moment. So no, it's absolutely still there.
Oh, cool. Good. So yeah, very impressive. And you came from a very different background than I came from. I was always kind of bootstrap kind of thing. I was a rock and roll musician, and I started doing NLP in the mid 80s, and I've been starting doing this ever since as a private practice where I do NLP and hypnosis. But you were a banker, were you not? Were you like on Wall Street for 15 years or something?
I was. I'm originally from Montreal, and when I was 19, I read the book Liar's Poker, and I don't know if you've ever heard of the book, but it's essentially the story of a Wall Street salesperson trader at Salomon Brothers. And from that minute on, that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to be a trader at Salomon Brothers. In fact,
and you were, right? You were a bonds option trader?
I was a bond options trader at Salomon Brothers. I traded emerging markets. So I traded Russia and the rise and fall of Russia in the late 90s. And I was on Wall Street for 15 years.
Wow.
And in 2008, I actually discovered a spiritual practice. I really literally picked up a book called The Power of Kabbalah. And it was one of those pivot moments, a lot of very similar to what we're going through now, but it was individual. It wasn't global.
Wow.
But it was a pivot moment where I just, I kind of closed the last page of the book, and I thought, wow, that's what you call it. There was a familiarity to the wisdom and the application of the wisdom in real life that just turned the lights on for me. And I, shortly after, like within weeks, I walked out of my managing director job. I was working at Bank of America at the time. And I really just said, you know what? I have to hit pause here. I'm in my late 30s. I don't have children yet. I think I need to think about what the next chapter of my career and my life are going to be. And in the day-to-day grind, also in the middle of the crisis in 2008, I didn't have any time to think. I was just doing. I was just doing. And I didn't have any time to think. Am I going to be a mom? Am I going to be an entrepreneur? Am I going to work here forever? I don't know. But what I do know is I'm not making time to think about it, and to process it and to be something different than what I was doing every day. And so I walked out in the summer of 2008. I went kite surfing for 6 months. My husband was a managing director at Credit Suisse at the time. And we had one of those conversations that we've all had in our lives, that turning point conversation where he said, if not now, then when? And I walked out the next day.
Wow.
And
so cool. That's such an amazing story.
It's that, sometimes it's just, and even I use that line now, right? A lot of us are doing things we've never done before. We've never had to do before. We've never thought of doing before. And we're all having that moment now. If not now, then when?
Wow, that's so amazing. So you went kite surfing? Is that what you said?
Yes, I'm a kite surfer.
What is
In fact, I'm the president of the Women's Kiteboarding Collective, which is a 4,500 strong group of women who kite all around the world.
Wow.
So that's just on the side.
So kite surfing. What is kite surfing? I don't even know what kite surfing.
Oh, you don't know what it is? It's
well, I think I've seen it, but I'm not sure. So just
so imagine a surfboard.
Yeah.
Standing on,
Yeah.
harnessed to very long lines that are connected to a very large kite. It kind of looks like almost like a hang glider type of thing.
Yeah.
Kite. It's
and you do aerial sort of tricks with it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I've totally seen
and
that.
you can surf forever without having to paddle, which I thought was pretty cool.
Hate that paddling.
Yeah.
That's just amazing. That's just amazing. Cool. So, a lot of our listeners are interested in, I believe, I actually don't know who they are personally, but my belief is
What they tell you.
the avatar that I have in my mind of the people who are listening to us are interested in coaching and how to be a good coach, I believe, and how to be successful not only as a coach with our clients, but also successful for ourselves. We need to, earn a living as the profession, whatever profession we're in. We need to. That's the point. Make a living. You have a whole coaching business, right? You have a whole. You're the founder and CEO of your company, right? What's it called? I'm sorry. Conductive. Yeah. Conductive. And how do you go about hiring a coach? What do you, when you have, what, 20, 15, 10, what do you have?
We have about 10 coaches on the team.
10 coaches on the team. So how do you go about evaluating and deciding who's going to be on your team? What do you look for in a coach?
Okay. Well, there's some boxes we check, which are starting points. One, I look to hire people who have at least 20 years of work experience. What that means is to have been through what our clients have been through. So it doesn't even matter what industry or what practice that's in, but that to have been hired, fired, had the best boss, the worst boss, struggled with a peer, had great success, won an award, just whatever it is, to have been through the day-to-day life experience at work. And so that's a starting point. Okay. We do typically, in fact, we've only hired IPAC coaches to date, but as we're expanding, we're certainly considering other groups, but IPAC has just been such a successful recipe for us. I'm IPAC trained, and the coaches on my team are. We have, as you and I spoke about, we've recently added NLP certification to our team of coaches. So at the core, those are the I guess the resume principles in a sense. Mm-hmm. And then the secret to success of the coach is really what's in their heart. And so if you some of the coaches on our team, that they're just quality human beings, mm-hmm. that you would want to talk to, you'd want to connect with, and that you'd feel supported by. And that's really, if I like quickly, and it's early in the interview to quickly bottom line, but if I bottom line coaching, mm-hmm. it's people, every human being wants to feel loved and supported. And a successful coach knows that that's what they're there to deliver. And that's the starting point for any coaching. Now, there is an infrastructure that needs to be around this, because I could sit here and say, I want everyone to feel loved and supported by me. But if I don't know how to run a business, I'm not going to have that many people I can love and support, because I just won't figure out how to do it for enough people, and I won't figure out how to establish the relationship, the two-way relationship that needs to be part of the success.
Yeah, I think that is a tremendously important point. And something that I see certainly in my field of NLP and hypnosis is that there are people who are very loving and really want to help, and they feel it deeply in their hearts, and they're, very passionate about that goal of helping other people. And yet, without a structure, without, some really good learning and good strategies and good techniques, that passion and that desire just doesn't really work, doesn't get, but doesn't come across, to the outcome that you're looking to establish. The Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching, IPAC, you mentioned them.
Yes.
Do they teach that at all? Is that part of their training, is how to actually be desirous to be loving and opening and to people? Is that part of their training?
So I got certified by IPAC 10 years ago. So I will speak to my experience 10 years ago. And I also know that the heart of the organization is consistent, has been consistent, and still is. And, what drew me to IPAC, and I did look into everything because I obviously had degrees from McGill and Cornell. So at first I took a very educational approach to where am I going to learn the best skills of coaching. And so IPAC definitely delivered on that, and a lot of schools do, but the way they delivered on the coaching skills to me was very holistic, and just, while not on the cover of the book, I can say there's a strong spiritual backing to the principles of IPAC. And that's what really clicked for me, because when I read the book Energy Leadership, which is the first IPAC book, when I read that, I thought, wow, isn't that brilliant? They took deeply spiritual concepts, presented them in an applicable business setting without talking any woo-woo. And that's really the secret to my style of coaching, which is there's a lot of theory, there's a lot of techniques, there's a lot of tools. And for a coach to be truly successful, the coach has to have an intuitive, wider lens. What's really going on with this person in the journey of their soul, right? So, and to understand that, and the person doesn't even have to talk that way, doesn't have to learn that way, doesn't have to speak that way with the coach. But for the coach to take that higher level of responsibility and engagement, and the responsibility of the coach to know that this person is in my movie for a reason as a coach, and for me to truly help them, and for me to truly plug into what they need delivered from me, then the more I'm connected to kind of a greater source of knowledge and understanding and wisdom, the easier the process will be for them. And so cool. And these are not words that IPAC spoke about openly. These are concepts that I read through the lines and I knew that IPAC was consistent with.
That's so, it's fascinating to me. What you are saying to me is absolutely fascinating, because if I may be perfectly blunt and honest, I didn't see that in your website. Your website looked like these are business people. They're all dressed up really fancy, and it's executive coaching and C-level. People going from the C-suites, sort of stuff. It seemed like, wow, boy.
Yes. Yes.
But it's
and still human beings.
Wow. Wow. Who'd have thunk it?
Again, it's not, the client doesn't have to experience that. It's the coach's responsibility to remain plugged in. Whatever the client needs.
Wow, that's great.
And it goes back to every coach has learned to meet the client where they're at, right? And that's where I take my mission and my responsibility as meeting them wherever they need to be at, in a language that they need to speak, so they can absorb and take in the transformational opportunity, right? I'm not pushing my studies. I'm not pushing my experience, right? I'm just holding a space and ushering a path for the client from wherever they start.
Right.
And that's a respect, that's a level of respect that as coaches we have to have for the client's journey, not mine.
Yeah, that's perfect. I love that. Wow, fantastic. I'm so glad you're on this show. That's just so great. Another question for you. When I was looking at your website, do you go through a process, a survey that is part of everyone's coaching process? Is that?
Yes, an assessment.
An assessment. Tell me about that.
Yeah, we primarily use the Hogan Leadership Assessment, which is the most widely used, most reliable, most thorough assessment there is on the market, especially for business profiles, for career profiles, for leadership profiles. We started using it about 5 or 6 years ago and quickly understood the power of it. It's actually an assessment that's so powerful that when you first get trained in it, kind of like NLP in a sense, when you first get trained in it, you're like, I kind of get it theoretically, but how am I going to do this? Right. But as you peel the layers, you realize just how profound it is and how meaningful it becomes for the client, because now it gives a language. It gives a language to collaboration. It gives a language to my behaviors. It gives a language to my relationships that I haven't been able to articulate before. And once I have that language, then with the coach, I can choose what I want to be the same and what I want to be different. Right. And that's really the most important choice we have in every minute of the day, every decision of the day, which is, I see something the way it's happening. I see something the way somebody else is doing. I see something the way my parents taught me. Do I want to be the same or do I want to be different? It's kind of the starting question to any behavior. Do I want to be the same person I was yesterday? Do I want to be different? Do I want to have the same debate with my children about getting dressed up this morning as we did yesterday, or do I want it to be different? And that's one of the key questions we have to ask ourselves every day, in every minute.
So that's standard then. So if somebody walks into your office and says, I want to be coached by you, say, great, fill out this form. You do the Hogan Assessment. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, it's an online assessment. I could send it to you and you do it in about 45 minutes. It takes the coach about 2-3 hours to properly prepare and analyze and adapt it to what the coaching objectives are. And then it takes about 2 hours to get your first debriefing on it.
Wow.
It's very powerful. Highly recommend it.
I've never heard of it, honestly.
It's also really, really powerful with teams and with pairs of people. So like if you and your wife did it, you would be blown away at what you would observe objectively about your relationship. And that's why it makes it so powerful, because what's something that feels personal between you two. Oh, that's just the way she does this. Oh, that's just the way he reacts when I do that. Oh, that's just his thing, right? This says, well, interestingly, this is his profile and this is your profile. And when you put these two profiles together, here's where they really complement each other. And here's where they trigger each other. And when they're triggered, here are the behaviors you're going to observe from them. And so when you see that, almost like it's a meta view of it, right? It's a meta of that's not you and me having a battle. That's these two profiles that are having a normal reaction to their default behavior, to their default triggers and behaviors. Now, what choice do we want to make about that? So that's how we use it in coaching, especially with groups of people.
I know a lot of different assessments. I've never heard of that one. It sounds amazing. I've gone through DISC. I've gone through, oh gosh, there's so many, I can't even remember them all. But I've never heard of Hogan before. That's
wow.
It was named after a person, I assume? Mr.
Yes,
Hogan?
Bob Hogan, the founder.
Bob Hogan. Is he still alive? Yeah. And what's his background? Is it any sort of like
psychology? He's a psychologist, yeah. It's
Jungian or what?
Sorry?
Jungian psychology, or what sort of psychology?
I wouldn't know actually, but with your background, I'm sure you could quickly figure it out.
Finding out as soon as we're off. It's like, what is
probably
that?
not Ericksonian, I guess, but who knows?
Probably not. Erickson was pretty influential. He did influence a lot of people, so I'm sure Mr. Hogan has heard of Erickson, if not vice versa. Wow, that is just truly fascinating to me, because you really are getting to the heart of the person. What really makes them tick, and getting into that, and then being able to
through data. That's what I want to say. Like, it's a data-based approach.
Right.
And, one of the challenges, any coaches listening out there know that, sometimes your clients come in pretty heady and you're like, oh, they need to be in their heart. They need to, okay, but you got to meet them where they are. And this is a very powerful tool to meet really smart people, especially as we deal with executives. We're dealing with really smart people who work hard, succeed, know the way to get things done. So we're taking this data-based approach to managing teams, to developing people, that in a way, once you meet them there, you actually then have more access to their heart. But if you never meet them there, you're just going to miss them, right? They're going to be up here and you're going to be down here, and you're flying past each other. And so coaches, talk about essential skills. A coach's skill is really understanding, where can I meet this client so that I can build that credibility and trust to then take them where they need to go. And they probably don't even know. That's why a client is often coming to you. They think they know what they want, but do they really know what they need? No.
There's often a difference between what they want and what they need.
Right. And if you start off saying to a client, you know what, this is what you need, they're going to say, no, this is what I want.
Yeah.
So you have to say, okay, let's understand what you want. Right. And let's understand why you want it. Very interesting thinking question, right? You can do all the NLP around that, right? So let's understand, let's understand how you think. Let's understand what you want. Let's understand why you want. So now I'm doing all the understanding, thinking, wanting. And then once you meet them there and then you can move them into another. It's very similar to moving them from the visual to the kinesthetic. And
right.
But first you have to meet them where they at. Otherwise, you're visual, they're kinesthetic. You don't have a match.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same concept. So we use data in that same way. So we use the data to get to their heart.
Gotcha. That's great. Do you still use much of the Kabbalah in your work with people?
Not directly. Kabbalah is my process, and the thing about Kabbalah is it's source wisdom, right? It's ancient source wisdom. And in fact, I was speaking to somebody yesterday who was also someone on our team who has who's a monk, who has a background as a monk, and who's also an IPAC coach. And we're talking, we both know that it's all, the ancient wisdom is the ancient wisdom, whichever book you're reading from, whichever scripts you're drawing this from. And that's what makes it so powerful is, it's what Kabbalah has taught me about the rules of the universe. Like when I first discovered Kabbalah, I realized that I was flying blind essentially. So, and then I was learning that this is how the laws of the universe work, right? And when I started studying 12 years ago, we weren't talking like this. When I became certified as a coach 10 years ago, nobody was talking about this. Things have changed so much in the past 10 years that people are ready to go beyond, right? Beyond what we see, beyond what we feel, because even feeling is a kind of, it's a superficial sense, right? And it's a sense that our ego is influencing. So, like feeling isn't necessarily intuition. It can be, but it's not always. And sometimes we believe our feelings too much, right? It's like if we doubt so many things, do we ever doubt our feelings? Maybe we should doubt our feelings, right? Because a lot of our feelings come from our ego, but we never doubt our ego, right? And so that's right. So these are the things that I learned from Kabbalah, that there's your soul and there's your ego. And your soul has this journey, including that crappy job you're in, right? That's part of the journey, right? And so it gave me a framework and a rule book by which to say, again, like, let me take the big picture view here, right? Let me take the meta view of the situation. Like, why is this happening to me right now, right? Why am I experiencing this right now? Because even when I say, why is this happening to me? There's a risk that I slip into victim mode.
Sure, absolutely.
Right? Because suddenly something is happening to me. It's outside my control. Again, another rule I learned in Kabbalah, right? So if it's happening to me, then I'm making myself the effect of something external to me. Okay, how disempowering is that? Right? Whereas, okay, I'm being led into this situation for my own growth and my own transformation. And sometimes it's not fun at all. Right? I'd rather be in the office you saw on my website than it's nice to be home, but not for 6 months. Right? So why is this happening? It could only be happening for something better. Now, if I get caught up in being the effect of that, then I will miss the opportunity to be the creator of the next chapter.
Nice.
And I want to be the creator.
That's beautiful. And it is interesting too, because you're saying that you're having this conversation with a person who's a monk or had a background of being a monk on your team. And yeah, ancient wisdom is kind of universal. It doesn't really matter who said it. If it's true, it's true. And and as you mentioned earlier today, that, even executives are human beings. And we all
They're
have,
not exempt. The laws of the universe apply
right,
to them. They're not
exactly,
exempt.
for sure. They're not, yes. Yeah, for sure. So
And
yeah,
even more so, if I might say, sometimes the laws are felt in a greater intensity when your desire and your passion is greater. And so, and that's what we don't realize, that sometimes when you sign up to say, I want to be bigger, I want to play a bigger part, I want to play a bigger role, just like coaching is a big job. It's a huge job. When you say, I want to be held responsible, right, for somebody else's success, you just open the door to the washing machine and you're going. And that's one of the things I tell coaches, early coaches, when, the new ones who are listening, I'll say the same thing to you. If you sign up to do this kind of work and you raise your hand and say, I'm willing to be used, right, by the universe to help somebody else grow and succeed and thrive, then you will go through a process. You will go through a cleansing process, no doubt, because you're signing up to do the work. And how could you do the work if you're not willing to work on yourself? Right. So I'm sure someone listening is saying, that's really interesting, because as soon as I started, getting certified as a coach, or as soon as I started my coaching business, boy, what a challenge I went through. It's actually a good sign.
That's true. No, it's really true. And as you
accepted.
Sorry, go ahead. So I'm sorry, I missed that. So
it means your application has been accepted.
yeah. Great. Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. Great. So yeah, it's an interesting thing, because as a coach, as a therapist, as a trainer, I've been doing all these things for a long time. There's an overlay, and some places it's a fuzzy line. What's the difference between coaching and therapy, or coaching and consulting, and what is the difference between these things? What is my real role here? Is it, if somebody comes in and says, I want to pay you to help me get from point A to point B, or X or Z or whatever, and that's what they want, and they're willing to pay you for that, but it's strictly this kind of, I don't know, strategy based roadmap thing to get to a certain level of success. It's like, well, that's valid and valuable, and I can see why you'd want that. And let's also talk about, who is the person who's doing that, and why they want to do that, and what's the deeper stuff that's going on here, and what will that mean to you as a human if you get that? What is achieving that going to give you, and why is that important, and why is that important, and then why is that important? And you sort of get down to the core of things. It's an amazing thing that happens. Sorry?
The 5 whys, right? Just why, and why is that important? Get to the core value and the core transformation.
Core transformation. Are you familiar with the terminology from NLP, core transformation?
A little bit. Maybe you want to explain it here.
It's a technique that was created by Connie Ray Andreas, who's been on my show already. She was one of my earlier.
No, then I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah, it's a wonderful book, a wonderful process called core transformation, and her son Mark Andreas teaches it a lot more. Connie Ray's gone on to other things like the wholeness process. I think is her main focus these days. But it is truly interesting how spirituality and the soul, you said, we have a soul journey that we're going on, is in a sense part of coaching in a lot of cases for a lot of people. It doesn't necessarily have to be, but it is for an awful lot of people. And when you get to really down to the human level of why people are doing what they're doing, and we are human beings on this planet having human experiences, no matter what our line of work is. I remember Marianne Williamson once saying that any job you have is actually a front for a church. I liked that analogy. That we're doing some really important work.
Absolutely. And like you said, does it have to be the process for everybody? I would say it depends on, it is always the process for everybody. The difference is what level of awareness needs to be integrated into the work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's always the process in the background, but some people are ready for that, for level A of the process. And some people want to go to level, MNZ of the process, right? And so it's always playing in the background. And that's where coaching is so powerful, because the coach knows it's always playing in the background if the coach has a spiritual foundation. But again, the respect and the impact of the coaching is understanding what level of awareness the client needs to have. They may not. Like, I have coached clients and it's been completely, I'll call it tactical, right? Whereas week to week, how do I deal with this? How do I deal with that? And it could we can go through a 6-month, 12-month process, and I may feel they're not ready for another level of awareness. And that I do have some ways of introducing concepts to test their readiness. And then I have other clients who something might serendipitously happen. Like, I may be wondering, what I really feel is going on with this client is whatever that is. And I don't know if they're ready for it. And I might ask myself that question. They might walk in the next session and say, "You're not going to believe what happened to me." To which I internally respond, "Thank you. Got it. Let's go there." Right. And so that's that, talking about skills, like those are the really advanced coaching skills, right? To have that courage to listen, to not react just because I want to, right? And then at the times to know when I got a sign and I have to be courageous enough to take them where they need to go.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why it's not just about them. Right.
No, it's true. It is. There are moments of true, like, take a breath and then just, okay, let's go.
When a client shows up for a coach, a match has been made. A match has been made, has been created.
Yep. And it does take courage. It takes courage to go there, and it's your job. And the thing about courage, of course, is that doesn't mean you're not afraid. It just means that you do it anyway. And
right.
and you know the steps, and you've packed the chute very carefully before you jump out the plane.
Absolutely. Courage is such a big word, right? And when I look for courage from within me, I may not have enough of it, honestly, right? Because then as a coach, I could get into, but do I know? Do I have the right? Do I, and then I get, guess who just showed up? Ego just showed up, right? Now everyone's in trouble, right? Because now my ego showed up. And as a coach, we could even have a self-righteousness to it, right? Whereas, well, I'm the coach. If I think that's what they need to do, it must be that. I don't know. The courage really comes from knowing I'm really showing up to be in service, not just to the person, but to the universe, right? I'm in service to some source power that, what sounds like a thought to me, do I really know it's my thought? I don't know. And so, we're kind of going deep here, but it's all about being open to the I don't know. We just spend so much time and energy into I need to know. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is say, I don't know.
It's interesting that you should say that, because much of my background, although I started off, like I said, as a musician and then got into NLP, I've been really focusing mostly over the years into the world of Ericksonian hypnosis. And Milton Erickson, as you may or may not know, often said exactly that. People would ask him a question about something and say, I don't know. It was like his favorite phrase, and he didn't know. But we were to trust. His idea was that you trust your unconscious mind. His terminology was the unconscious. But he might have been meaning by that, exactly what you're meaning by the soul, or the universe source, or whatever.
And we don't need to know. And that's what I'm saying. Like, we don't need to know. It could be my unconscious. It could be what feels like an idea I had. It could be some greater power. We don't need to know. But when we say, I don't know, we open the door to receive it at a conscious level. Wherever it's coming from, it doesn't even matter, right? But when I say I know, I'm trying to figure out, when you kind of like when your eyebrows sort of go down and you're like trying to figure this out, and then you get narrower and narrower and narrower, and you realize you're actually running out of solutions, right? And so when you say, I don't know, like I didn't know what we were going to talk about on this podcast, right?
Right.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I come in saying, this is going to be fun. Yeah. I don't know what we're going to talk about. And when I do, then I will know at the right time. Right.
Yeah,
and
exactly. Yeah. There's stories of Milton Erickson where he would basically go into a trance during the seminars or during the sessions he'd be doing with people. And he would just basically turn it all over to the great, I don't know, the great unconscious, if it will. And there's some funny stories about where he would wake up from that trance after the session was done and go like, what happened to Dr. Schwartz? Didn't he come today? So and then there'd be notes that were turned over face down on his desk. He said, oh, I guess I'm not supposed to read those since they're turned face down. So I'll just be comfortable with my unknowingness and put it into the filing cabinet and not read those.
I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, wow, imagine if we all felt like that would be fun to not know, because that's what we're going through right now, right? Like this is the great unknown. Like, right. I don't know how long I'll be sitting in this office and not from our beautiful space in Bryant Park. I don't know. Right. And imagine I could feel that that's a fun question. Right. Right now, talking to you because we're in flow feels like a fun question. Doesn't feel like a fun question every morning or every night before I go to bed. Right. And so what if we could feel that not knowing were fun?
Right. That's true.
Even for a little part of the day.
Yeah. Like you, I have a what I consider to be a beautiful office on 29th Street and between 6th and 7th that I'd spent better part of a year, furnishing and soundproofing and getting this rise up desk so I could do podcasting and things from that. I've got this great light sort of thing set up there. And then just before I launched my website, I moved upstate to my country house, and I'm doing this all from a laptop with a lamp,
Did you read early in the pandemic, HBR released an article on that feeling is grief, I think it's called. Did you read that article?
No.
It's such a great article. It still applies because it's that, that feeling you just have now talking about your office space. Like we're kind of laughing about it, but really there's a heaviness and a sadness inside because you put so much love and energy into making it right for you because you're so focused on the flow you will be in when you're there, right? So you took the care and you gave the attention and the time to all those details. And now they're not with you physically, right? And so we're experiencing all these different emotions through this. And with your NLP background and all of us coaches and the coaches listening know, sometimes we just got to call it what it is. And that's how it releases, right? In fact, that's how it releases from the subconscious as well, is when you call it what it is. And we're experiencing so much grief. Mm. And grief is a heavy feeling. It's got so much burden. But to kind of take that breath and say, wow, what I just felt about your office, about my office in Manhattan, that was grief. Mm. And you know what? As I just said that, it changed the feeling. Mm-hmm. Did it change the feeling for you?
I didn't experience grief, honestly, ever. I've never felt grief about not being there. Just felt like, okay, that's the next step. Let's just go.
Good for you.
Yeah.
That's elevation. You're an elevated soul.
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe you processed attachment and detachment earlier in life.
Maybe, but it's also really interesting because over the years of the course of studies that I've been doing, I also have delved a lot into Jungian psychology, the work of Carl Jung. And dream interpretation has been a big part of that. Sometimes when people have asked me about, as a hypnotist, do I do past life regression? It's like, well, yeah, I don't necessarily know if it's a real past life or not, but I figure the stuff, whatever it is tantamount to being a dream imagery. So let's look at it from that. Let's interpret it that way. And certainly I know when I came up here, whether or not I was having grief or maybe subconsciously I was or whatever, but I was certainly having some pretty wild dreams. Pretty crazy stuff was happening, and scary, weird stuff. But I also knew enough to know that it was information coming from my unconscious. It wasn't necessarily something that was like I had to be actually afraid of, but it was telling me something. There was a message there. There's a communication happening. So it's like, okay, hello, welcome. What are you saying here? What's this about?
Oh, well, I see you. Yeah. And
just,
it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to be afraid subconsciously. It's okay. We're actually okay.
Right. We are. Which is a nice thing to remind ourselves of on a regular basis. We are actually okay. Yeah. Good. So, just from a nuts and bolts point of view, if somebody wanted to get hold of you to learn about what you do, to learn about IPAC, and if they wanted to become an employee of yours, to get hired by you, if they wanted to get certified enough to say yes, I can do this,
or if they just want to coach, we got a phenomenal team of coaches, and
I know at least one of them. So yeah, for sure that's true. Two now.
Great. So we're actually really easy to find. Conductivecoaching.com is our website. I'm on every social platform, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can direct message me. We do have a couple of really cool things happening this month that are very accessible. Some are free. Some are really accessible pricing. One of them is will probably happen before you release this podcast, but I'm doing a time management free event. It's only a 30-minute event live, probably before this podcast is released, but I will have the recording if anybody wants it. And that really came from a little bit of, people just saying, I don't know how she does it. She's a CEO, she's a coach, she's got all these clients to take care of. She's got a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old. So long list of stuff. And so I realized at the core of all that is I manage time like a boss and I have lots of tricks up my sleeve to do so. So I'm happy to share that recording with anybody who wants to reach out and ask for it. Just DM me with the word time and I'll know what you mean and I'll get it to you. And the other thing starting on, probably shortly after this podcast is released is a career design 6-week course. I don't need to say the date because we'll probably repeat it. So if you look us up, you'll know when. And that's really about owning it, right? You look at what we've been through in 2020 and how we can sort of slide into the back end of this year and then wake up on the 1st of January going, WTF just happened, right? And it doesn't have to be that way. Like you really still have time to own it, to learn from it, to process it, and to go to look back on it, right? That with that hindsight of, wow, I see what happened. I see why it happened. And I see the gifts that came out of it. Because there can't not be gifts that come out of this. It's just impossible. It's just not how the system works, right? There's been pain, there's been grief, as we're talking about, there's been detachment and all that. But a lot of good will come out of this. And so we really want to help people take that experience and knowledge and apply it to their careers. So they realize that too can go to the next level as can their life. So we're really talking about the entire human being. So any of these programs, any way of reaching me, just let me know you've heard me here and we'll take it from there.
Beautiful. So conducive.com or conductive.com they could reach any of.
Conductive. Sorry, I apologize. Conductivecoaching.com.
Conductivecoaching.com.
Or find me, Tanya Ezekiel, on any social platform and find Conductive. So Conductive is the name of company. The URL is conductivecoaching.com.
Okay. Thank you.
Put it in the show notes.
Yeah, definitely. We'll put that in the show notes. Thank you very much. Oh, my goodness. This has been a wonderful discussion. Thank you so much. This has been great.
Thank you for having me. It's fun talking to you.
This has been the Essential Coaching Skills Podcast. Thank you for being here. It's a pleasure seeing you again. Hope to see you again real soon. Come back next week when we have another gripping and exciting episode of the Essential Coaching Skills Podcast. And if you want to, you can find out more about us, each and every one of us, at essentialcoachingskills.com. Thanks.